July is here and I've dug through all the new nonfiction releases so you don't have to. I have a scenario for the next pandemic, a manifesto for high agency people who suspect the rules are not made for them, a new way to read Marx in the age of climate concerns and AI, the death of half of the world's languages, a book on how to build a life that doesn't eat you alive, a return to Walden for our overworked, overstimulated century, and an 1100-year history of why tracking data has always been a real weapon for empires. And last but not least, a story so strange that you will actually ask what reality really is. Yes, let's jump right into the list. It's jam-packed. The first book is Biological Warfare, a Scenario by Annie Jacobsen. It's out on July 28th and it's a very anticipated book from the author who gave us a scenario of how a new nuclear war would play out. This time the focus is different. A lab accident, a bioattack, a global pandemic. The collapse of human society told hour by hour with the same relentless research and scenario journalism style as her previous book about nuclear war. Jacobsen, she doesn't write speculative fiction. She writes what the actual experts say could happen in the order that they would happen. That's what makes her so terrifying. If you've been following the gain to function debate about whether we should alter viruses in order to study how they evolve, or if you read The Coming Wave by Mustafa Solomon and are familiar with the dual use problem of powerful technology, this is the same existential risk territory but pointed at biology instead of AI. This is one of those books that are the most anticipated books of the month and possibly the year. I would love to read this book if I have the stamina, but I will read it with the lights turned on because it sounds like a pretty terrible place to be in headspace wise. Book number 2 is You Can Just Do Things, How High Agency People Get What They Want Out of Life. This book is the community pick of the month. People have voted on the hype meter on the homepage before this video, and this one came out the winner. So congratulations to Cate Hall and Sasha Chaplin for that. It's out on July 21st. Cate Hall's biography is the argument. She was a Supreme Court attorney, then she became the #1 female poker player in the world, then she became a biotech CEO and a foundation CEO. The book's thesis: most productivity advice and most rules of success are guidelines for low agency people. They are optimized for someone who needs permission to act. This book is co-written with her husband, Sasha Chaplin, and it's a manifesto for the type of person who suspects that the rules subscribed doesn't really apply to them. If you enjoy books like The Almanac of Naval Ravikant, which was a great book according to me, a guide that takes an unconventional route towards his goals based on first principles. This is another one in that lineage, I think. It sounds like it's an unconventional roadmap to getting where you want to go. And Booklab basically exists on this premise, so this is a one that fits us well. I'm in. Book 3, Capital from Zero, Reading Marx in the Age of Climate Catastrophe by Kohei Saito. It's out on July 21st, and this is one of those wildcard books that I throw into the list. This is the follow-up to Slowdown, a global bestseller, and Saito himself is one of the most interesting public intellectuals in economics right now, according to many. He's a University of Tokyo philosopher and the youngest ever winner of the Isaac Deutscher Memorial Prize. He is trying to make Marx cool again for the climate generation. Capital from Zero is part reading guide to Marx Capital, part manifesto, part provocation. The pitch is, in an age of climate catastrophe and AI-driven inequality, the old questions about capital, labor, and value needs to be asked again. Saito argues for what he calls degrowth communism, a phrase that is either going to intrigue you or send you running for the hills. And Here's why I'm interested in this one. I'm currently reading through Mises, Human Action. He's one of the Austrian economics, one of the big names in that category, and he is tearing Marx to shreds in that book. So I wanted to hear like the strongest possible case for the other side. If Saito can make Marx relevant in the age of AI, then I really want to know what the argument is. And if you read Hayek's The Road to Serfdom, a book I read recently, or anything from the Austrian economic crowd or the hard money crowd, then this is probably the intellectual opposition that you want to be reading, an interesting one. And next book, I have to get it. Here it is. Speaking of building a life on your own terms, the sponsored book this month is Build a Life That Doesn't Eat You Alive by Piers Kastleton. It's about burnout, it's about boundaries, it's about intentional living and not letting work just consume you. I started to read this book a few days ago and I'm a few chapters in. It feels like this is an Atomic Habits, but for getting your life together, both your external environment and your internal state. It's an extremely practical book with a lot of tools and exercises, and you will definitely recognize yourself in the stories in this one. If you feel like your life is just a bunch of busy work, that your boundaries are weak at best, then this is probably the most actionable book you can pick up. I think it was out in May. So this is a book worth checking out. Book number 4, How to Kill a Language, Power, Resistance, and the Race to Save Our Words. It's by Sophia Smith-Galler. It's out on July 7th. Half of the world's 7,000 languages will disappear this century. This is not a typo. And languages, they don't die of old age. They are killed. Whether it's by war, nationalism, by climate, by quiet choices at the dinner tables where parents decide not to pass on their mother tongue. This book is about the deliberate and accidental killing of languages, linguicide. And it's a highly anticipated book that already been dubbed the most anticipated book of the month, the week, etc. from several sources. But I have a personal angle to this. I gave the lecture series on the story of human languages. It's part of the great courses series that is available on Audible. A 5 out of 5. I found it super fascinating to read about languages. That course told me how languages work. This book will tell us how languages die. And when a language dies, it's not just the words that die, it's a whole way of seeing and perceiving the world. I want to give a quick shout out to another book that really fascinated me about languages, and it's Don't Sleep, There Are Snakes. It's a fascinating story about, I don't know if he was a journalist or not, but he went out in the New Guinea rainforest to investigate primitive native languages there, and it's just fascinating how different languages are across the world and across time. So that's an interesting one. Book number 5, The Cure at Walden Pond, a guide to recovering our humanity. It's by Thomas More and it's out on July 7th as well. Thomas More wrote Care of the Soul, which sold over 1 million copies and basically launched the modern soul care genre. Now he's going back to Thoreau and asking, was the cure already invented 170 years ago? The argument is that Thoreau's complaints about the industrial society, consumerism, overwork, shallow entertainment, and constant noise are now our complaints, just dialed up to the maximum. Walden wasn't a nature book, it was a critique of how we live. And Moore makes the case that the antidote that Thoreau prescribed is still a valid one. Deliberate slowness, connection with nature, fewer commitments, and attention. I read Walden myself a few years ago. I thought it was kind of a slow book, but when the lessons came, when you found that powerful sentence that made this book a classic, it was worth all the effort. Simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. This feels like a good one to go into summer with if you like books like 10,000 Weeks by Oliver Berkman, or maybe you enjoy The Stoics, then I would recommend Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday. These books feel like they're all in the same vein. It's never too late to slow down a bit. Next book is Data Empire by Roopika Risam. It's out on July 14th. Roopika Risam is a Dartmouth professor and past president of the Association of Computers and the Humanities, and she's making a big claim. Surveillance and data control is not a 21st century problem. They are 11,000 years old. Risam traces the history of data as a tool of power from clay tablets in Mesopotamia, through colonial consensus records, through industrial era bureaucracies, all the way to AI. The thesis: empires have always run on records, and whoever controls the records control the empire. Today's tech companies are not doing something new, they're doing something very old, but with much better tools. Sounds like a scary book, sounds like an interesting book, sounds like a relevant book. That's why it's here on the Booklab, where part of the mission is to prepare for the singularity that we're entering in terms of AI. And the seventh book is American Alt. It's by Chris Lockhart. It's also out on July 7th. I saved this one for last because it's the strangest book on the list and I can't stop thinking about it. A man arrives at the state capitol building convinced that he's with three friends on an armed mission to confront the government. The friends, they aren't real. He's alone, in his car, in a parking lot. He is later diagnosed with schizophrenia and dissociative identity disorder. And from inside that diagnosis, he reaches out to an old college friend, the author Chris Lockhart, and asks him to help reconstructing what actually happened. The book is what they pieced together. This book has already been given really great reviews, saying it's one of the best books on mental illnesses ever written. And here's why it hits for me. I read a lot about psychology and human nature, but American Alt goes somewhere that most nonfiction psychology books don't. What happens when reality itself breaks? When your mind invents people standing right next to you? This feels like a insider view of what it means to be very, very sick, and it might spawn some interesting insights about what reality really means. That was the full list, 7 nonfiction books for July 2026. I hope you found something good in this list. And now we're going to go into the pick of the week. The community pick was, of course, You Can Just Do Things, and I will throw a vote on that as well. But just to get two different choices, I will actually pick biological warfare, biological war, a scenario. The only reason I kind of shy away from that book is because I'm not mentally prepared for that kind of intense reading. But when I am, that will definitely be a go-to book. It sounds super duper interesting. I'm doing something new. I try to stay ahead. So I'm actually going to publish my list for August, the most anticipated nonfiction books for August. And if you want to participate in picking the community pick, you should be able to go in there and press on the hype meter. You don't need to log in or anything to do that. You just go in and mark which ones you think are interesting. And that will help me improve my results for the community pick of the week. And you will also know what books coming up next week, so you can plan your reading. That site will probably be up in a day or two after publishing this review. If you're not already on the newsletter, then go up there and sign up. You get book recommendations every week, no filler stuff. When it comes to new reviews, I have two. One's coming up, The Curious Mind of Elon Musk. I'm reading that right now, and I'm soon finished with The Infinity Machine. Then it's Hassabis, who was the creator of DeepMind, and The Quest for Superintelligence. Both books are just super interesting, so that will come out very, very soon. Let me know what you read this summer in the comments, and see you next week with more book reviews. Until then, Björn out.